It is estimated that over 1 million people suffer from an eating disorder in the UK. Those most at risk are between 10 and 19 years of age. This is the story of 3 young people who have suffered from anorexia nervosa, the deadliest of all mental illnesses.
Hiya, I'm Lindsay. I'm here with Beats to talk to some Year 9 students.
Okay, Lindsay, I'll just sign
Lindsay acts as a young ambassador for BEAT, the Eating Disorders Campaigning Organisation. Constance kept a diary, describing her thoughts and fears as she fought her private battle against a disease that almost killed her. And Rob, whose unique testimony gives us some insight into the mind of a male anorexic. They don't want anorexia to remain hidden away. They want the facts to be known, because if spotted early enough with the right kind of help, this frightening illness can be defeated.
I would, cut myself off from all social communication, really, with my friends and people at school. Also, I began to withdraw almost everything I was eating. I was eating a very small amount and exercising more. It wasn't like a conscious decision I made to say, I'm going to starve myself, I'm going to try and lose weight. I never thought that at all. But it was, I really don't deserve this.
He couldn't really make himself eat something and he'd get quite upset. I think then when he got into a state, and in fact we went up to Yorkshire to stay with my brother and family, and I think he ate something, bar of chocolate, and he had to go running into the loo. And my sister-in-law then said, something happening here, really.
I think there was one particular meal when we were having something really quite nice, a sort of a Thai curry or something, and he just wanted toast. And that just, to me, seemed, unacceptable, really. It seemed quite difficult to sort of push the point or talk about food. It always seemed to cause a certain bit of an issue, really. I did a bit of research on the internet. I think it was probably at that point that I came across the BEAT website.
There was like a list of symptoms for anorexia nervosa, and he looked down and showed Mum, and that pretty much every single one I had.
He said, I think he's got anorexia, and I said, oh, surely he can't have. And I was just sitting there thinking, oh God, he has. I suppose deep down I knew it, but I couldn't. It was so difficult to accept. Especially, I thought I should know all these things. I should be aware of it. And you kind of feel guilty yourself, really, that you didn't pick this up way before. And seeing your son getting thinner and thinner, and giving him a cuddle and thinking he's feeling, because we always like cuddly, family, and thinking he's really thin, he shouldn't be this thin.
At the same time, I had very serious sort of mood swings, really. I could go from being absolutely fine to being completely despondent in a matter of minutes.
And he did cut himself, which I didn't realise. So he hid all that. So I think he'd come home, and this was when I was at work, and feel guilt and all these terrible things, and cut himself. One Sunday when I think things had come to a head and he was in a terrible state, and he said, look, and he showed me on his arm, and he told me that he'd done it over a period of time. I was just devastated. I couldn't believe it, that I'd not even known that he'd done that. The fact that he'd come home and cut himself, at his age. I just couldn't fathom it in my head at all that he'd feel that bad to do that.
My mum and dad were always on my side and tried to understand, and obviously they couldn't always understand how I was feeling about food and about school, things like that. And got frustrated at certain points, because it's such a frustrating thing to see this awful thing happening to your child.
Rob's health, both mental and physical, was deteriorating at an alarming rate. He was in and out of hospital as the medical profession tried to decide what was wrong and what to do with him.
I was taken to hospital in a completely sort of frenzied, feral state in a way. I was just completely desperate, and I think if at that point I hadn't got help, I probably would have died.
He was upstairs in bed, more or less ready to die, in a terrible state. More or less saying goodbye, really. That was it, he'd given up. And he was terrible, and that was awful, because it used to have, like funny do's, terrible, like hitting himself and everything. But this particular time, he was just laid there, and it was like being at work with people that are dying, as he was saying goodbye. And that was awful. Absolutely awful.
Doctors are skilled at diagnosing physical illness, but less so when it comes to mental illness. A recent survey found that nearly 9 out of 10 people with eating disorders said their GP didn't understand their illness or know how to help them. Luckily, Rob's parents found one who did.
I rang the GP and asked if he could come and see him because we just couldn't he wouldn't drink or anything, and we just couldn't carry on. And this GP that came was brilliant, and he'd said, I've seen this before, I understand. And he said, I'll get him back into hospital, which is what he did. He was brilliant. He understood, and I think that was the thing.
Rob was eventually admitted as an inpatient to an adolescent psychiatric unit in Sussex, much to the relief of his parents. Finally, he could receive the care and attention he so desperately required.
Okay, so today you've got a problem or a dilemma to solve. So you're almost at a crossroads in your life.
The staff not only treat young people with eating disorders, they also deal with a wide range of psychiatric illnesses.
What struck me more than anything else about the place was so sort of welcoming and understanding, more than anywhere else I'd ever been, really, while ill. These people, seemed to understand not what I needed to hear, but what I needed to do to change things.
We just finished our session, and you've got another session booked with Rob, have you, soon?
I think we're due to meet next week, isn't it?
Anorexia is one of the most difficult mental illnesses to treat. Group and individual therapy are important components of the recovery process.
It does consist mainly, at the beginning and as it happened for quite a long time, of, right, we're going to give you 3 meals a day, snacks, puddings, and you have to eat it. You can't argue, you can't reason with us, you can't bargain, you just got to do it.
Often you get young people who get quite distressed when they come on the unit because they've tended to manage their problems by managing their eating, by controlling their eating. And so when they come on the unit and they're actually in a position where they can't do that anymore and they're also putting on weight, they can be actually quite distressed. And so I think that's something we have to be aware of and something we have to try and establish a relationship with our young people so we can support them through that first period.
What was really stopped me from completely losing my mind in there, barely, was the fact that the staff were incredibly understanding.
Can you explain why it was an all right night? Why was it all right rather than good or bad?
Well, it was okay. We just did what we normally do.
Yeah.
Nothing.
They tried to,
Okay.
I suppose, tried to make you feel like a human being rather than somebody who's mentally ill, and that made a huge difference.
Group 1, the alkaline metals. Group 2, the alkaline earth metals. Group 7, the halogens. And
Education is a key ingredient in aiding the rehabilitation of the young people.
studying chemistry up to GCSE, really those are the main groups that you want to know. But you've also got this big block.
We have a very good school unit on the premises who provide an awful lot of support, a very structured timetable for our young people, and they also liaise very much with the education facility that young persons come from. And so they talk to the previous school, think about some of the issues that occurred there, how they can support the young person through those. If the young person is in the middle of exams, we can provide them with a base to do exams as well as support that will lead them up to those exams. So there would be an opportunity perhaps for young people to go back to their school with some support to try and reintegrate into their school.
What do they put into airships now?
Helium.
Once we've got them in a situation where they feel that they can start to eat a little bit more, can start to put on a bit of weight, then we would explore what other support would be needed, and we'd be looking at some sort of therapeutic intervention. I was talking with Mum about a scale of 0 to 10, and 0 being that you're not at all confident that you can manage it, and 10 being that you're very confident that you can manage. So where would you place yourself?
I'd say about 7, really. Nice. When I did receive therapy, it was really enlightening, actually, and also just made incredible changes in how I saw things, really. It was nothing, nothing magical or mystical about it. It wasn't like, okay, I'll tell you this, and this that you can do every day and you'll feel different. But simply someone someone who I had a really good relationship with and understood me and I understood them. And then just talking to them on a regular basis about, you know, how I was feeling, and then actually getting them, someone objective, you know, as objective as you can be, to look at that and say, you know, give you their professional opinion on how, you know, how these things had developed, and help me to work through myself, you know, trace back how thoughts and feelings had sort of evolved, really, and challenge the assumptions that were feeding them.
What support do you think you'll need to manage that?
I think as the family we need to be aware of how it might affect him, but also the tutors and the support that you've given us, you know, just to talk it through in our family therapy.
Parents need a lot of support in those situations, and I think often parents have talked to me and said that they feel that their child not eating is sort of almost the biggest rejection that could happen for them, because it's, you know, they see the role of a parent is to nurture and look after a child, and if you're not able to do that, you can feel pretty useless, and people describe feeling that way to me. And so I think one of the things that we want to do is to talk to them about the situation, give them a bit of reassurance that, you know, this is not something that they're to blame for, it's not something that's their fault.
I can't, you know, express how grateful I am for my parents, really, because it's been the small things, really. Just knowing the fact that they've been there all the way through, they've always supported me, and even if they get frustrated or upset.
Anorexia's changed our lives quite dramatically, and Rob's life very much so. Yeah. And I don't know that people realise, and it's not just, it's the family, it affects the whole family and friends. A lot of people. It's devastating. And it shouldn't be taken lightly, because it can just come and take you over. As a family, a little family, the three of us, I think we all respect each other, and because we love each other, and that's given us the strength.
I take things on a day-by-day basis to a point, because I'm just happy to be alive, and I feel incredibly lucky with everything that happens to me in life. Even bad things could be so much worse.
I want him to be happy and carefree, really. I just want him to be able to do things without worrying about it, and I just want him to have a happy life and do what he wants, and have to say, I am good, Mum, you know, I'm a good person. I just want him to be able to say that.
Constance is 16 years old and attends Lord Wandsworth College, an independent school in Hampshire. She was 14 when she was first diagnosed with anorexia.
I love life at Lord Wandsworth College because there's a real sense of community, and I feel like everyone gets along really well, and that's really important, I think, in school life. I enjoy doing most sports here, in particular hockey, and I used to do a lot of running as well. And it was quite a big change because I never thought I was particularly any good, and I didn't have the opportunity to do much sport at my old school, so it was a real change for me coming to a school where I could do sport.